This sort of proposal for the war memorial was on Common Dream a couple months ago. I've rewritten it again. It's still the first 50, but probably in another year or so there'll be. See, I'm still going on, and I kept thinking, well, maybe just wait till I call a halt to this at some point. And so we'll do one with a catalog kind of book with maybe 120 or something like that. I'm working on 110 right now. I had the pleasure of introducing Helen Thomas at the WERU fair up in Blue Hill last weekend. And she's the one I'm working on right now. By the way, today's her birthday, 87. We're all wonderful. We're all wonderful. Yeah. That's a good idea. Did you ever see that? She said, put my proposed memorial in the garden over at the air base. Oh, there's so many stories. Yeah, I spend, because of the portraits, which I started just out of frustration, grief, and anger, and shame, really. I was so ashamed of this country and what it was doing in the world. And I wanted to surround myself with a constituency of Americans that I felt very proud of. And it's surprisingly easy to do. I mean, there are lots of them out there, not that our media tells us about them. And certainly the schools don't tell kids about them. That's the saddest thing. I mean, I go into schools with these portraits and, you know, they know who Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King is, sort of. But Rachel Carson, Frederick Douglass, Susan B. Anthony, you name it. You know, they don't really know anything about these people, you know. It's sad that they don't know their own history. More important is that they don't have role models then for how to resist injustice in their own lives and what to do about it, that this has all been done before, that it doesn't have to be invented, that they don't understand that our rights actually come from resistance. You know, we didn't get our rights because of our laws and Constitution. We got them because people fought for them, you know, repeatedly. You know, all of our civil rights, women's rights, workers' rights, you know, environmental rights, gay rights, they all come about because people have the courage and persistence to fight for them. Well, so I take this into schools, which I would never be allowed to do if it were me coming in saying things like this. But instead, I hold up Wendell Berry, and I say, Wendell Berry says, you know, that the worst sign of our society today is that, you know, that our government has the courage to sacrifice the lives of young people in war, but not the courage to tell us that we must be less greedy and less wasteful. Well, what do you think, kids? What does that mean? You know, and it's amazing the discussions that happen. And one of the other people I think, of course, is Marian Wright Edelman, who said, what's wrong with our children? It's adults telling children to be honest while lying and cheating. Adults telling children not to be violent while marketing and glorifying violence. Adult hypocrisy is the biggest problem that children face in America. You know, so I show that to a bunch of high school kids, and I say, what does that mean, kids? You know, and they all, I mean, do you agree with it? And they all say, oh yeah, of course. I've never met any kid who didn't say, yeah, whatever. But the important thing is then is to get them to understand why that's being done to them. And they know, you know, they haven't thought about it before, but why they're being used like that. I mean, whether it's just for profit and commercial gain, or if we think that violence is a good solution, or that you ought to join the army. You know, all the ways that, you know, violence is used as a means of both titillating and seducing until you will go along with any call to be violent. So, that kind of thing. I've had some amazing things happen in terms of in school. One of the things I do if I'm there for more than just, you know, an afternoon to show the pictures and present to people and talk about what I think they mean in, you know, not in history, but in everyone's life today, why it's important that we've had these people in our history. And of course, a lot of the people I've painted now are contemporaries. They're not You know, there's people like Cindy Sheehan and Medea Benjamin and Howard Zinn and Noam Chomsky and, you know, lots and lots of folks who are working very hard today on these issues. But, where was I going with that? One of the things I do is I often, if I'm there for a few days, I get the kids to paint their own self-portraits and then write on them the words that they would use to say, or what they would say to other people about how to live in the world. And usually, without even seeing my pictures, they say the same things that are on the portraits, just in different language. Kids know sort of what's right, and they know how to say it, actually, and they know what they would really like. And you know, I often get these, you know, well, sometimes the things that happen are very courageous. And in school in New Hampshire, we spent all week these kids doing their self-portraits, and then it got to the key part where they had to put their words on it. And this one 7th grader came up to me and said, "I'm a little bit nervous about this. I want to say something that's going to be a little upsetting to some people." And I said, "Well, that's what this is all about. You know, if it's something you believe, put it on there." So he went away, and a little while later, I went over and saw him where he was sitting, like, working on his picture, and he'd written, "People have said some terrible things to me, but I'd rather be gay than a phony." This is 7th grade. And this, all the kids' portraits were then going to be put later that evening with my portrait in a big parent-teacher gathering. So this wasn't just, you know, for himself. This is going to be a very public display for the whole community. And that's what we often get is, you know, kids, you know, being willing then to say things that they wouldn't normally say and take stands that they wouldn't normally say, and then finding that they can live up to it. One girl said to me at that same event, she said, "I didn't even know that boys knew the word heart. All these boys had written something about what they believed in their heart." I said, "Oh, I didn't even know they knew that word." You know, so when people speak from a place then where you don't, you know, all of our sort of conformist, you know, peer relationships often inhibit us from speaking from that place. And you paint your self-portrait, and then you write on words to live by, and all of a sudden you're speaking from a more honest place, and you're creating a different kind of community then, in terms of what you really believe in, you know, not just stuff you want, or the game you played on your computer that day. When the show was in school in Bar Harbor, I got a letter from a 5th grade girl after the portraits had been in the school for a while, and it said, "I've been looking into the eyes of Winona LaDuke all week, and I've decided to dedicate my life fighting for justice." I thought, okay, I can hang out of it now. All you need is a few things like that, and you feel like you've done something in the world. But one other comment, I'd say one other story. Some of you heard me talking today, I think I told this, but one of the very first places I showed the portraits was in a Real Pizza in Bar Harbor. It's REEL. It's a movie theater pizza place. And I went over to give a talk after they'd been there for a while, and this woman came up to me with her 7-year-old daughter, and she said, "I took my daughter, Iris, all around. We looked at all the portraits. I read her all the quotes. I explained what they meant, and then Iris said something I thought was important you'd like to know." And she handed me this little yellow post-it with Iris's words on it. It said, "I'm so excited. I think he understands everything that the children know."